let's talk triggers. So if you know me, you know there are a few things in this life that I love more than coffee and gear. The product we're going to be talking about today falls into that second category. Helps me do my job so much better, easier, seamless. It's great. It's a great piece of gear. In fact, it's so great I'm tempted to get 3 more of them. So what is it? Let's get into it. Alright, so here we have the Roland RT-MicS. So pretty much, this thing is a monster. It's a computer pretty much in a 4-inch package thingy. So it's a drum trigger as well as a microphone. I'm hesitant on the mic part. We're gonna find out how that sounds. Probably not great. Don't care, I want the trigger. But not only is it a trigger, it's a trigger with its own onboard memory. So you load your samples into this. Like, first off, opening up the box. Cool, didn't need that anyways. Got boom. You got the trigger. That's it. That's all you need. It's got its own onboard memory, as you can see with the sample list right here. It's got power, a USB, your volume for your samples versus your microphone mix. Then you have your output jack for your mix that you determine with these sliders. A switch for if you want just an electronic sample, which is what I'm going to be primarily using it for. And then also a separate output for your microphone. So not only do you get a trigger with this thing, you get a trigger with its own memory, a microphone, and its own little mixer built in. On the top you have a little LED screen, the sample list with the samples you have, and then your one button that you use for everything. So this button right here is your button to switch between the 8 samples that are loaded in, as well as your mute button if you want to mute your samples. Lastly, on this side you have a sensitivity switch, so you can make the trigger more sensitive or less sensitive. But sensitivity switch, yeah, so all in one form package. Another great thing, hold on, love this part, it's battery powered. Boom, that's it. You don't have to have a power plug, it just goes. Granted, I know how batteries and gear work, so just to be safe, I also picked up this, you know, standard 9-volt power adapter, also used for guitar pedals. And so, knowing my luck, I would be using this in a show and the battery would die. And so I picked up this little power adapter to help fix that. We're gonna go set this up. We're gonna go plug it in. We're gonna see what the trigger sounds like, what the mic sounds like, and I'm gonna load some custom samples in it, provided by Perks Live, link in bio, and we're gonna see what it sounds like in context. Let's go. Okay, so talking through the setup of this thing. So right now, I'm actually gonna take this off and show you. So, there's the 57, and there's the trigger. So, I have literally just 1/4-inch 2 XLR converters going down there. So the mic, the output for just the mic is on top, and the output for the mix is on bottom. Then I have it just running into my interface, my patch bay. And so, with that, I'm gonna run into Pro Tools. So I'm gonna do just one recording clip with all the different changes between the triggers and the mix and all that stuff. So I'm gonna do all the fixing and all the changing in post and just use the same recording for the whole thing. So you're gonna have just raw drums before the trigger, the raw drums with the triggered snare, the raw drums with the solo trigger mic and no sample, and then the whole mix thing in context, and then another mix thing in context with the song. So all that's going to be done in post, but that's the setup I'm running. So I'm going to record this video real quick, and then we'll be back with Pro Tools. Alright, so as you can see from those clips, there's pretty noticeable difference throughout all the different ways you can use this. Like I anticipated, the microphone within the trigger itself sucked. It was horrible, super thin, sounded awful, had a shocking amount of bleed for being that direct on the snare, and also you can't really change the position of it that much because it's in the casing and you can't move it up or down. Like I anticipated, the microphone inside of it sucked. Trigger soloed by itself sounded great, sounded like a computer. Then the raw drums, honestly, my snare already kind of has the sound that I was going for with the trigger, but that's just because that's how I tuned that snare specifically for the live stuff that I'm having all of the time. The trigger mixed in with it, sounded great. And then in a song context, this trigger really shined. So you saw with the song, with the mix in a song, it cuts through really well. You get that nice gushy fat sound, and you can put any sample in this thing with their computer software. So that was just a sample I'd loaded in at the time. So I got a couple of questions from my faithful followers on Instagram. By the way, if you're not following me yet on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, link down below. So I'm going to answer some of those questions in this video just because I think these are general questions that need to be addressed before you buy this product or before you're thinking about buying this product. So the first question that I got was, will this trigger blend? Roland did a great job by putting the volume sliders on the side of the trigger so you can directly blend the sample with the mic, and it's all within that same form factor, and it has one dedicated output. So it can blend that way. The way that I'm going to be using this, I'm just going to be outputting the trigger sample itself to front of house, and then front of house can mix it in. That way they have the master control over how much is getting sent to the speakers, to the main PA, so they'll have complete control over the blend that way with the actual snare mic, usually a 57, and then the trigger with the snare mic. So the next question I got was, how do you use it, and does it work without an SPD-SX? So if you're not familiar with Roland products, SPD-SX is the best sample pad, drum sample pad on the market. I use mine for every show I do, every worship night I do. Anytime I'm playing anywhere, I have my SPD-SX with me. It's just easy way to trigger electronic sounds or virtual sound live with actual sticks. Roland actually makes triggers that you can plug into your SPD, and then the sounds come from your SPD. And so that way you would have to have the trigger and the SPD. I already have an SPD, but this product intrigued me specifically because of the onboard memory, and so technically I could use this trigger without my. So you don't need an SPD for this trigger specifically. However, this does integrate nicely with an SPD if you want to use both. The next question is, how accurate is the triggering for dynamics? So this is a big thing for me, because when using a trigger like this, I only want to trigger the sample on the full velocity, full volume hits. With having that sensitivity switch on the side of the trigger, I can turn the sensitivity all the way down to where the trigger will only open up and send the sample out whenever I'm at full velocity. However, on the opposite end of the thing, if you're in a lower volume setting and you can't play as loud as like an outdoor festival or arena or a big church, you can turn the sensitivity up. It's on a 0 to 10 scale, so you can turn it up and it will trigger literally with just like tapping the head at 10. So the range for the sensitivity is quite remarkable. You can go from only triggering from like a 12-inch stroke to triggering with like your finger tapping the head. So I think that sweet spot between like 3 to 6 is where most people are gonna fall. However, for what I'm gearing up for mainly outdoor festival shows right now, I'm gonna use the sensitivity all the way down just so it only triggers at full velocity. Okay, and then the last question that I got asked that I want to answer is the microphone as good as a Shure SM57, or is it only for trigger applications? So kind of a two-part question. First off, I'm only going to be using this for trigger applications. Personally, I did not like the mic at all. I think it sounded awful. Also, I know everywhere that I'm going to be playing is going to have a dedicated snare mic, whether that be a 57, a Bayer Dynamic. I plan on only using this for trigger just because, as you could see earlier, the mic just didn't sound that great. And I don't think people are buying this for the internal microphone. People are buying this for the trigger and the internal memory that comes with it. So I don't plan on using the microphone with it at all. Even like mixing it just did not sound great. It sounded thin. You can't really alter the position of it that much. So I really only plan on using this for the trigger application, which I think is pretty wise, and I think Roland kind of knew that. I think they were making this mainly as an internal memory trigger rather than a microphone with a trigger. So if you're wanting to get a mic and a trigger and you don't have a mic yet, buy a 57 and then figure out the trigger later. A 57 is like 70 bucks used. Just get a 57. Don't use this microphone. So that's my thoughts on it. This product was not sent to me by Roland. I bought this with my own money, so I wanted to be as honest as I could about it. I love the trigger in it. I love the sensitivity and the dedicated volume on it. I love the 2 dedicated outputs, the ability to switch to just sending the sample. I think that's a super smart feature that this product has, but I think the mic just fell short, which I'm cool with. I wasn't planning on using the mic in this anyways, but moving forward, if you're planning on looking into buying this, don't think the mic is a viable option, because frankly it's just not. Only thing viable about this is the trigger. All right, so closing up, I'm really happy with this product. I'm really happy with the trigger capabilities of it. I can't wait to use it live. As always, if you have a question, comment down below. Find me on Instagram, DM me on there. Like the video, subscribe. I'm working on more content right now. So I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you all in the next video.